You are about to hear a story that will flip your understanding of ancient history upside down, because the figure we all grew up hearing about, the legendary Roman general, dictator, writer, the man whose very name became synonymous with absolute power, may never have existed in the way we imagine. And before you dismiss this as another fringe theory, listen closely, because the facts surrounding this mystery are strange, uncomfortable, and surprisingly well documented. Why did the world suddenly begin talking about Julius Caesar only during the Renaissance? Why do the supposed ancient biographies mention people who also cannot be traced earlier than the same era? Why do the life events of so-called ancient Caesar mirror, almost line by line, the biography of a very real man of the Renaissance who not only carried the same name, but was a military commander, a writer, an aristocrat, a reformer, and the father of the scholar who rewrote world chronology for all of Europe? And why do coins, portraits, and symbols attributed to ancient Caesar so easily match the culture and artistic styles of the Renaissance, not antiquity? Once these questions are asked, they cannot be unheard. And by the end of this video, you will understand why the official version of ancient Rome has far more holes than you were ever told. For most people, Julius Caesar is a figure of the 1st century before our era, a larger-than-life hero, a brilliant strategist, the man whose writings are still taught in schools. But the strangest detail, noticed by almost no one, is that his father, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather supposedly all had exactly the same name. Not just the same first name, but the same full 3-part Roman name, 4 generations, identical. And not just identical, but also described in suspiciously similar terms. It is almost as if someone in the Renaissance era needed to manufacture a prestigious ancestry and simply copy-pasted the same person over and over again. And once you see this pattern, you cannot unsee it. The Roman world is presented to us as if it were populated with clones, each stamped with the same overly neat identities. According to many independent researchers, the official biography of the ancient Caesar was constructed during the Renaissance by Italian scholars who were under enormous pressure to supply wealthy collectors with so-called ancient manuscripts. Europe at the time was obsessed with antiquity. There was money to be made, prestige to gain, entire careers to build. Workshops began mass-producing manuscripts, statues, and documents that were passed off as relics of the ancient world. Forgery became a booming business, and historians of that era wrote with a confidence that far exceeded their evidence. Much of what we today call antiquity bears the fingerprints of those Renaissance forgers. And when we examine the sources about Caesar, the pattern becomes undeniable. His life story includes individuals who appear nowhere in documented history before the Renaissance. Teachers, orators, generals, writers, all supposedly ancient, all first mentioned 15 centuries after they supposedly lived. And if the supporting cast is invented, why would the protagonist be real? But the most intriguing part of this puzzle is that the Renaissance did not simply invent Caesar, it modeled him. And it modeled him on a living, breathing, well-documented person, Julius Caesar Scaliger, a celebrated 16th century military commander, scholar, physician, aristocrat, and the father of Joseph Scaliger, the scholar who created the historical chronology used to this day. While your school textbooks tell you about Caesar marching across Gaul, fighting the Germans, reorganizing Rome, or writing elegant prose, the real man who lived in the 15th and 16th centuries did those same things. Not metaphorically, literally. Julius Caesar Scaliger began not as a scholar, but as a soldier. He fought in the long and brutal Italian wars that dragged on for more than half a century. He served in Spain, France, Germany, and northern Italy. Contemporary accounts describe him as brilliant, charismatic, and fearless. He rose to command the most important forces of Spain. He distinguished himself in battle after battle, and his victories earned him the status of a celebrated leader. The parallels to the so-called ancient Caesar are not symbolic. They are precise. Both Caesars began their careers in Spain. Both fought in the lands of France. Both campaigned against Germanic tribes along the Rhine. Both fought against the Eastern power that threatened their empire. For the ancient Caesar, it was the Pontic Kingdom. For the Renaissance Caesar, it was the Ottoman Empire. Both returned triumphant to their homelands and were showered with honors. Both later turned to writing and scholarship, and those writings were praised across Europe. And what about the coins that supposedly prove the ancient Caesar existed? This is where the story gets even more fascinating. The Scaliger family was one of the most powerful ruling dynasties of northern Italy. They controlled Verona, Veneto, and large parts of the region for more than a century. Their title was not king or duke, it was dictator. And rulers of that era minted their own coinage, complete with portraits and inscriptions. Julius Caesar Scaliger was the last of his line to mint coins bearing his own likeness and his own name. Those coins survived. And when Renaissance scholars later manufactured the legend of ancient Rome, those coins were conveniently reinterpreted as relics of antiquity. Over time, the story stuck. But someone might object. The ancient Caesar is usually shown clean-shaven, while Renaissance portraits of Scaliger show him with a beard. The answer is simple and well documented. Scaliger wore a beard only while on military campaign and in his later scholarly years. When he returned to his estates, he shaved, exactly as was fashionable among Italian nobles. So the clean-shaven face on the so-called ancient coins perfectly matches the appearance of Scaliger at home during peacetime. Even the laurel wreath, usually considered an ancient Roman symbol, does not prove antiquity. It was commonly worn by European emperors, nobles, and generals throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. Napoleon wore it. So did numerous rulers before him. The meaning survived, and Renaissance artists applied it freely. Now the most shocking parallel. The ancient Caesar is credited with creating the Julian calendar. But the Julian calendar, as we use the term today, was standardized and expanded only in the Renaissance. And who was one of the most respected astrologers and calendar experts of that time? Julius Caesar Scaliger. His son Joseph Scaliger later extended his father's work and embedded it into the new universal chronology he designed. In other words, the calendar attributed to the ancient Caesar likely originated in the 16th century, created by a man who actually bore the name Julius Caesar. So we are left with a picture where the ancient Caesar looks less like a historical figure and more like a symbolic, idealized, mythologized reflection of a real Renaissance commander. Ancient Caesar commands armies in Spain, France, and Germany. Renaissance Caesar does the same. Ancient Caesar fights Eastern powers threatening Rome. Renaissance Caesar fights the Ottomans threatening the Holy Roman Empire. Ancient Caesar is celebrated as a writer,